Hello everyone, and welcome to Ariana's Food Adventures. This adventure we're going to dive into the subject of meal prep. In my 4-part series, I will be discussing a new subject each week just to make it easier and to kind of break down the meal prep because there's a lot to it. But by learning the basics, it's actually really a lot of fun and it's easy, you know? So for this week, we're going to focus on what is meal prep? Why? Like the pros and cons. And then discuss the various tools, equipment that's going to make your life a lot easier when it comes to meal prep. So what exactly is meal prep, you wonder? So meal prep is just basically preparing and planning ahead for your week for, meals. And it's a great way just because, it saves time, saves money, and you're just utilizing, that one day off to make all your meals. And, with meal prep, there's definitely some pros, there's some cons, but I feel like the pros outweigh the cons. For example, you're buying things in bulk. That way you don't have to worry about like last minute decision of buying something like, oh, I need this, I need that. No, you're buying everything you need for that entire meal for the whole week. So another pro, saves time and time management. Sure, you're spending more time up front by making all the meals ahead of time, but think about the time you're saving. It's already prepped up and ready to go. So all you have to do is like reheat it. And let's say you're trying to lose weight or you just want to be more conscientious of your, goals like for healthy eating. Well, it's great because you're utilizing, portion size, one of the tools that you'll need is a scale, obviously, that way you can measure everything out. So that way you know exactly how much you're eating. Another pro, it reduces stress. I know after work sometimes I come home, I just don't want to cook, but it doesn't have to be stressful like that. By doing meal prep, you are saving time, you are saving stress because all you have to do is just reheat that dinner. So my last pro for meal prep, I would say definitely eliminates food waste. Instead of just buying ingredients that are just sitting there, you are buying exactly what you need for your meal prep. And you're utilizing each and every ingredient rather than just for the ingredient to sit in the fridge to rot. You're using that ingredient, so you're eliminating a bunch of food waste. Of course, with the pros, there's some cons about meal prep. For example, you're having the same thing over and over again. Things may not taste as good from day 1 to day 5, but that's why you got to be a little strategic what you're making, kind of planning ahead. And you're going to take quite a bit of space in the fridge or the freezer. All right, so we discussed what exactly is meal prep, the pros and cons of meal prep. Now, let's discuss the various tools and equipment, starting with what meal prep container should I use? Well, I got you covered. Let's discuss the various options you have, shall we? All right, so I got 2 plastic containers here for meal prep. Sure, plastic is good, it's easy, it's portable, it's very light, you don't have to worry about it breaking, but it's plastic, it doesn't last forever, sometimes things stain it, so there are some pros and cons, but these are great for like if you want to do like salads, especially during summertime, when you want something light, refreshing, but again, personal preference. But these are the options that you have. Let's talk about glass meal prep storage containers. All right, so I got 2 options here for glass for meal prep, but let's start with this one right here. So you're probably wondering, why is there a little divider? If you don't like food touching, this is a great option. Glass is very durable. It's easy to clean. If you don't mind food touching, here's like another great one that just has one solid piece. Personal preference, either ones work great. And this is great because it doesn't stain as easily as plastic does. Feel free to use whatever works best for your needs. Either one of these options would be great. All right, so I got 2 glass containers here, different mason jar size for different purposes. Let's start talking about the big guy. So with the big guy, these are great for like mason jar salads because the great thing is you could just literally build your entire salad in here. And all you have to do is just take this to work with you. You can give it a little shake, pour in your bowl, plate, whatever you name it, and you have your salad ready to go. It's all literally in one container. It's great. All right, for the little guy. So I like having little mason jars on hand too, just because I can make a thing called overnight oats. I got a little handy dandy silicone molds right here. You're thinking, what can I do with these molds? Well, these are great because, you can put a little eggs mixture in here and make little egg sandwiches. All right, so I got a cup cube tray right here, and these are great. So let's say you want to make like a big batch of soup, and like each night you just pull out one of these cubes, and you just put in one of the saucepans and heat it up. It's great. You know, I love having like little soups on the go, so that way it doesn't take up so much space. They're all right in here for you. And like I said, they're portion sized out, so it's perfect. All right, so I mentioned earlier that you will need a scale. I like having a scale just because it's a great way to measure exactly what you're eating, you know, and that way you can portion out things evenly, and it just makes it so much easier too. So one thing I definitely rely heavily when I do meal prep is my Instant Pot. And it's great because I can cook a big batch of rice and evenly distribute it through the whole meal through the whole week. And another great thing about it is you can cook black beans in it, or even any kind of dried beans. You know, instead of spending all that time, let it soak overnight, cooking it for 2+ hours, not with this Instant Pot. So I've actually made black beans in here before, and I tell you, it only takes 35 minutes to cook. It's great, and it's so wonderful. Saves so much time. All right, another tool / equipment that I can't live without is my air fryer. And I love my air fryer because it does such a wonderful job roasting some veggies. For example, potatoes, I dice them up, season them, throw them in this bad boy, and it takes only 20 minutes to cook. All right, folks, so this is my handy dandy little half sheet pan. This is great for making meals on the fly, especially just putting them all in the baking dish, put them right in the oven, and just cook them. All right, so you're probably wondering, why the heck do I have an ice cream scoop? And what does that have to do with meal prep? Well, I'm here to prove you wrong. These are actually for meatballs. Well, in this case, you can use it for meatballs. I like them just because that way they're both uniform size. I have a little mini-me. I got like a larger one. You know, that way they all cook evenly. Well, folks, I know that was a lot to digest, you know, between, you know, learning exactly what is meal prep, the pros and cons that come with it, the various tools and equipment that you'll need just to make your meal prep easy and successful. Stay tuned, because next week we're going to make some delicious meal prep meals. I will see you next week.